167 bullets. That's what it took to stop a cheap Ford on a Louisiana road in 1934. For 2 years, this mass-produced car outran every police vehicle in America, not because of the outlaws behind the wheel, but because of what Henry Ford put under the hood. The first affordable V8 ever sold to the public, and it rewrote the rules of every chase. In the spring of 1932, Henry Ford introduced the Model 18. This ordinary family car carried a mechanical marvel that altered American roads. For decades, 8-cylinder engines were luxury items reserved for the wealthy, costing thousands of dollars. Ford changed that by introducing the flathead Vive 8. At a retail price of $460, this engine put multi-cylinder power within reach of everyday working citizens during the darkest years of the Great Depression. Speed, once a luxury, was now mass-produced and highly accessible. The genius of the flathead lay in its brutal simplicity. Traditional multi-cylinder engines required complex, expensive casting processes. Ford's engineers solved this by developing a monoblock design, casting the entire engine block as a single piece of iron. The L-head configuration placed the valves directly in the block next to the cylinders rather than overhead. This left the cylinder heads flat, simple, and easy to manufacture. It had fewer moving parts, fewer studs, and a rugged, durable construction that could survive neglected maintenance on unpaved back roads. This 221 cubic inch power plant weighed just 460 pounds. In its initial 1932 configuration, it delivered 65 horsepower. While that sounds modest today, it was a staggering leap forward from the sluggish 4-cylinder engines that dominated the era's budget market. Ford wrapped this extraordinary power in an unassuming, ordinary steel body. It was a wolf in cheap sheep's clothing, ready to run. In the early 1930s, this massive performance gap became a matter of survival for America's public enemies. Most police forces still relied on 4-cylinder patrol cars, like the Ford Model A or Chevrolet Master. Heavy with sirens, spotlights, and steel reinforcement, these municipal cruisers struggled to reach 60 miles per hour. A stolen Ford 5.8, stripped of excess weight, could easily push past 80. This was not about luxury, it was simple math. An outlaw gang driving a flathead had a 20-mile-per-hour advantage on any sheriff in pursuit. But speed was only half the equation. The Ford was also the ultimate disguise. By 1933, hundreds of thousands of these cheap, mass-produced sedans rolled off assembly lines. If a gang stole a black Ford Tudor, they did not just gain horsepower, they gained instant anonymity. The moment they hit the highway, they dissolved into a sea of identical cars. The body design mattered as much as the engine. The Ford's steel cabin was spacious enough to act as a rolling fortress. Outlaws like Bonnie Parker and Clyde Barrow realized the back seats could hold an entire armory of cut-down shotguns, pistols, and automatic rifles, while the heavy steel doors offered protection against return fire. For a crew living on the run, this cheap family sedan was a self-contained, high-speed base of operations. On April 10, 1934, a handwritten letter left Tulsa, Oklahoma, addressed directly to Henry Ford. The envelope bore the signature of Clyde Champion Barrow. Written just weeks before his death, the message offered a blunt criminal endorsement, praising the V8 for its sustained speed and freedom from trouble. The author confessed his business was not strictly legal, but maintained that when it came to evading the law, the Ford outclassed every competitor. Today, this artifact is preserved in the research library at the Henry Ford Museum in Michigan. Scholars still debate its authenticity, pointing to handwriting that resembles Bonnie Parker's script rather than Clyde's, while others suspect a practical joke. Genuine or not, the document captures a very real truth. The outlaws trusted this mass-produced machine with their lives. Living on the run turned the Ford Vive 8 into a self-contained, high-speed headquarters. Bonnie Parker and Clyde Barrow spent weeks at a time inside the steel cabin, eating meals cooked on a small portable stove in hidden roadside ditches and sleeping across the passenger seats. The spacious deluxe bodywork acted as a mobile armory. Inside the cabin, they stowed an immense cache of stolen military firepower. Browning automatic rifles, cut-down Winchester shotguns, and Colt semi-automatic pistols propped against the upholstery. They carried hundreds of rounds of ammunition, heavy bedding, and canned goods without compromising the vehicle's excellent power-to-weight ratio. But the machine's primary strategic asset was its ability to exploit a fragmented law enforcement system. The gang routinely drove across Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri, and Louisiana, using the Ford's speed to cross state borders. In the early 1930s, local sheriffs and county deputies had no legal authority to pursue fugitives across state boundaries, and extradition required slow judicial approvals. By crossing a state line, the gang instantly broke the chain of physical pursuit. The Ford's mobility weaponized these legal gaps, allowing the outlaws to outrun a disjointed police system long before radio communication, teletype networks, or joint posses could close the net. April 29, 1934, Ruth and Jesse Warren left the keys inside their 1934 Ford Deluxe 5.8, parked in their Topeka, Kansas driveway. Within minutes, the sedan was gone. It would be the last vehicle the outlaws ever stole, and one the Warrens would spend years fighting to recover. By this point, the gang's reliance on the V8 speed had become a fatal predictability. Months earlier, they abandoned a battered Ford after a shootout in Sowers, Texas. Inside that wreck, investigators found tire tread markings, ballistics, and a torn newspaper. Special investigator Frank Hamer used these physical clues to study the gang's movements. Hamer, patient and methodical, realized that while the Flathead could outpace any patrol car, its drivers were bound by human habit. They traveled in a predictable, circular loop. The machine gave them speed, but their habits gave Hamer their coordinates. By tracking their routes rather than chasing their dust, Hamer adapted frontier policing to the machine age. On the morning of May 23, 1934, 6 lawmen waited in the brush along a rural dirt road near Sales, Louisiana. At 9:15, the stolen Ford Deluxe swept over the hill. As the vehicle slowed, the officers opened fire. In seconds, a heavy volley of automatic rifle and shotgun fire tore through the quiet air. The steel cabin offered no protection against the onslaught. The Ford was struck an estimated 167 times, its steel body, fenders, and safety glass completely shredded. The Flathead V8 engine sputtered, coughed, and died. The heavy sedan drifted slowly into a ditch, coming to a quiet, permanent halt. Inside the ruined cabin, the 2 occupants lay still. The cheap, mass-produced machine that had outrun the law across 5 states for 2 years had finally stopped. Its criminal utility was completely gone. The ruined Ford did not go to a scrapyard. Instead, the bullet-scarred sedan became a traveling exhibition, towed from town to town as a morbid monument of the motorized outlaw era. For decades, the vehicle changed hands among promoters, displayed at state fairs and roadside stops across America. Today, the original car sits under the bright lights of a casino in Primm, Nevada. Dozens of ragged bullet holes still puncture the rusted steel doors. Decades after the chase ended, crowds still line up to stare at the physical proof of the ambush, quieted by the violence torn into the metal. Today, the highway pursuit remains an endless arms race. The Flathead Vive 8 didn't just outrun the law, it permanently tilted the balance of power on the American road. The modern chase was born then, and we are still running. Subscribe for more untold history.